Hey guys, so I'm going to share a passage from Matthew 6, and the Lord has been teaching me a lot about this over the past few months, so I wanted to share with you. In the book of Matthew, Jesus talks a lot about the kingdom of God. He focuses on it, on all of the beginning chapters and how to actually live it out. In Matthew 5, he starts with the Sermon on the Mount, and he talks about how we are the salt and the light of the earth. He talks about how we will live differently when we're in the kingdom of God, that we will avoid sin at all costs, that we will say no to lust and anger and revenge. We will keep our word. And then he jumps into Matthew 6 and talking about how where we put our heart, that's where our treasures will be. Where we put our treasures, that's where our heart will be. And that he wants us to put our heart in heaven, because that's where an eternal impact will be made. So it says in Matthew 6 verses 19 through 21, "Do not store up for yourself treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." So in this verse, he makes a clear comparison of when we achieve on earth and when we achieve for things in heaven, and showing us that whatever we choose, it has clear consequences to that, and that shows that that's where our heart will be. He clearly says that if we do things here on earth, our heart is in earth, but if we do things for heaven, our heart will be in heaven. And I know in this world, we can get so caught up with the things that we have. We get caught up with striving for material things like a house, a car, good jobs, new phones, new clothes. We want status, we want success. And if we continue to work towards that, that shows where our heart is. That shows that we value what this earth, what people can offer us more than what heaven can offer us. And we know that these things will not last. And we know that as soon as we go to heaven, that it's not going to matter. God's not going to ask us about our new phone or our new clothes. He's going to ask us what we did for him. And Jesus is telling us that it matters so much where our hearts are, and that it should be set on the hopes of the kingdom of God, where nothing can destroy it. And after all he teaches in Matthew 5 and 6, he's showing listeners that it is so worth it to live for heaven, because it will not go unnoticed there when we live for Jesus now. Like, there will be results there. And it gives us so much hope, because we can keep going no matter the persecution, no matter the trial, because we know what we're doing is safe in heaven. We don't have to worry, which he then goes into shortly after this passage. The Lord knows literally everything that we need, which he then talks about at the end of this chapter too. And when we trust God and put our hearts toward him and the matters in eternity, he provides literally everything that we need. And this is truly walking the Christian life. That's true obedience, when we let him transform what we're doing, when we let him transform like our hearts to be humble, to be light, to forgive others, to not hold a grudge, like it talks about in Matthew 5. When we allow him to transform us, our hearts are transformed, and we walk out a true Christian life. And that's what Jesus is trying to tell us in the Sermon on the Mount, because he's saying, hey, the kingdom of God is here, and I want you to be part of it. With that being said, I encourage everyone to think less about what we're striving for, to think less about material things in life, to think less about striving and opening doors for opportunity, and letting our hearts grow about what God cares for and what the kingdom of heaven is all about. Sowing into people around us, into younger people around us, honoring the older generation, listening to our friends, being a listening friend, showing them that love covers a multitude of sins, that we're there for them, forgiving them no matter the cost, being generous with our time, with our words, with our money, slowing down to see people and not to just rush to do what we want to do. Jesus wants us to put our hearts on kingdom things. That's what he did in his lifetime, and he desperately asks us to do the same thing, because he knows what's best for us. So if our treasure is in heaven, our heart will be there too, and that will affect everything we do here on earth. So I just encourage you with that, to remind your heart that, hey, I am not permanently on this earth. My home is in heaven, and I live for heaven. I bring people to heaven, and I will reap that reward when we get there and when we see Jesus.